Hello, beautiful people. I'm so excited to be back for season 2 of the In Transition podcast. It's been a few months. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes, a lot of pause for reflection, a lot of really amazing conversations with some guests that are going to be on this show that I'm super excited to bring to you this season. All different kinds of transitions we're going to be talking about. Again, I'm always blown away by the level of vulnerability, wisdom, strength, resilience, and courage so many of these women show. And I'm so excited to bring their stories to you and for you to hopefully take something away that gives you a little bit more hope and maybe strength to take some of the steps in your life that you may be putting off or you may be afraid to. Because let's face it, you've heard my story, hopefully, if you've gone back to season 1 when I shared about my divorce, mainly the reasons I decided to end my 11-year marriage. Um, the whole premise of this podcast was really to give space for stories to be heard, for us to share our stories as women and to own them and realize how capable we really are, how much we go through in our day-to-day life that is somewhat of a universal theme that so many other women can relate to. I found in building a community and also just having conversations with women that there's so much empowerment to be had in having these conversations, in liberating ourselves, and giving others the permission to liberate themselves in the process. So that's really what I'm here to do. And of course, because it's season 2 and it's the first episode, I want to lead by example again and share another story of transition from my many, many journeys of transition. And this is one that is relatively recent as well. I feel like I could go way back and pull something out from the past, but the most relevant ones that I love talking about are the ones that are more recent because it wasn't until a couple years ago that I really started to shift into the person that I'd say you're experiencing now. She's always been in there. At my core, I am who I am. I am who I've always been. But there's parts of me that I kind of had to let die in a sense so I could be the person I was supposed to be. So the transition I'm going to be sharing about today is how I got to this point, the transition of grieving myself and the person I had been so I could become the person I am today. And what a journey it's been, right? A squiggly one, a non-linear one. Even though I'll go over kind of the phases of what I went through in this journey, I will say the journey's never over. There is no end point. There is no end game. The journey of getting to know your true self and becoming who you were meant to be is one that you will live out your whole life if you choose to embark on this journey. Sounds kind of maybe depressing, but honestly, it's the most empowering experience you can ever go through if you allow yourself to truly know and understand yourself at a level that you've maybe never allowed yourself to. And this journey is something that I documented in a book that I wrote that is yet to be released. So stay tuned on that. But I wanted to give women the tools or a roadmap, a framework for how to start to release some of the things in your life that may have been holding you back, that maybe keep you stuck or feeling small or like you're not living your fullest expression. So the journey I went on and the journey I highlight in my book is one of grief. It wasn't the obvious starting point when I started writing this experience and this transition. It only revealed itself to me in the writing of it. What was I actually going through? What was I experiencing as I was getting to know myself at a level that I never had before? I was learning that I was actually going through the 6 stages of grief to become who I was meant to be. So I use the 6 stages as a framework, and I'm going to talk briefly today about each of those. And I'm going to do this by reading this section of my book. No one has heard this until now. So I hope you enjoy. This is chapter 1 of the book, essentially, is what you're hearing in this podcast. If you like what you're hearing, I would love for you to support the book when it comes out. And like I said, more on that to come. But enjoy. I call this laying the foundation. And I'm going to start with a quote. All the art of living lies in a fine mingling of letting go and holding on. It's by Havelock Ellis. In order to know where we are going, we have to know where we have been. I truly believe this. And if we are intent on transforming our lives, we have to take the time to grieve the loss of our former selves. I say former because starting right now, you are a new you. And once you decide that and declare it, there is no turning back. This is where the work starts. We begin by laying the foundation, understanding where we are starting and what is required to take that big step forward to create a life we love. I'm going to warn you right up front. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be moments you want to pump the brakes and go back to the way you were. I say this not to scare you, but to be fully transparent and to draw your awareness to these feelings at the beginning of your journey. If you start down this path, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But like anything worthwhile, the pain and suffering you have to endure in the process is well worth the reward of coming back to you and living your best life, of no longer thinking, what if, or I should have. I want you fully armed with the knowledge and tools you need to make this life-altering decision and be able to stick with and trust the process, because it's going to be a process. I apologize in advance if you are looking for an overnight success. You may as well put this book down now. It didn't take you a day to get where you are now, so to promise a change overnight would not be overpromising, but irresponsible. But I can tell you this: if you promise to show up each and every day, do the work, and have faith in the process, you will radically transform your life. So let's dive in. It wasn't until I went down this path for myself that I started to see so clearly that I had and was experiencing a profound loss. Loss of myself, for one, and loss of a life that had become comfortably uncomfortable. Maybe you can relate to that feeling. It's a sentiment I share often with my coaching clients, and one that we as women tend to fall into time and time again. When contemplating a major change in our lives, we all too often fall prey to the fear of uncertainty and failure, which then forces us to settle for a life that has become less than ideal or maybe even downright miserable. I cannot tell you the number of times I've experienced these exact feelings. They started to sound like a broken record. And even though this cycle seemed to play on repeat for so much of my life, it wasn't until March of 2020, enter the COVID lockdown, that I really started to examine my life and how I had been contributing to my own dissatisfaction of that life. I lovingly refer to this moment as a great pause. Maybe you are experiencing this moment right now. And if you are, I encourage you to lean into it, to see it as a sign and an inner knowing that it is time to take action. It is time to stop playing small and to start showing up for yourself in a way you have yet to in your life. It's time to start grieving the loss of your former self. Stepping through this grief is going to be methodical. I'm going to hold your hand through it and paint a picture by offering personal stories, insights, and tools as we step through it together. You are not alone. I am right here with you every step of the way. And no journey is complete without some form of a roadmap. So no more leaving you hanging. These stages are going to sound very familiar, aside from the last one, which is a new addition courtesy of the brilliant David Kessler, as they were the foundation of research done by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and David Kessler around the stages of grief. Stage 1, denial. You will go through a period where you will do everything you can to deny your own reality. You will make up excuses for yourself and the people in your life to justify how you ended up here. You will tell yourself things aren't really that bad. Trust me, I've been there. And while maybe things aren't really that bad, they are not great. And you have felt this way for a really long time. It's okay. Honor where you are at. Denial is a powerful tool we use to keep ourselves stuck. But once we become aware of it, we can then start to move to the next stage. Stage 2, Anger. Get ready to rage, literally. You're going to get mad at the people in your life, your circumstances, and most notably, yourself. You're going to do and say things that stem from this place of anger and resentment. If I could tell you anything up front about this step, don't judge it. This is a necessary part of coming to terms with your reality and with processing all the crap that comes along with it. But what I will say is that you can have the anger towards others, the world, and yourself, and you can also have compassion and grace. These feelings are not mutually exclusive. Anger just means you're allowing yourself to fully feel all the feelings. And the longer you've been repressing them, the more likely for you to feel intense feelings of anger. Rest assured, the anger will not last. At times, it will feel unrelenting, but I will be here and provide you with the tools that will help you process and deal with your anger in the most productive way possible. I've got you. Once we have tamed our anger monster, we're ready to move on to the next stage. Stage 3, bargaining. Okay, this is where you're really going to start to annoy yourself and others, because this is the stage of what ifs and should haves. This is where you will come up with a plethora of excuses for why things are the way they are, and will start to place blame on others and yourself. This stage is a bit more productive than anger, but it is also not the solution to really transforming our hearts and minds. We know we cannot go back in time and change things, yet it doesn't stop us from trying to think our way through a really different reality. This is where I will encourage you to stop focusing on the past and the future and to really start to cultivate present moment awareness. After all, the only thing we can control is the present. Wasting our precious energy and resources on the past and future is futile. From a renewed sense of present moment awareness and appreciation, we can move on to the next stage. Stage 4, depression. Told you it was going to get worse before it gets better, but stick with me. This stage is where things start to really take a turn for the better. Consider this. You've been denying your current reality for quite some time. You've gotten angry and made a list of excuses as long as a phone book. But now you're aware, and from that awareness, you feel profound sadness. By cultivating present moment awareness, you have opened the floodgates to all the repressed feelings that lie dormant for so long. I'm not going to lie, this stage is going to feel unending, but it will not last forever. It will just feel like it's going to. My encouragement is to allow yourself to indulge in all the feelings, to really experience and process them, and to remember the only way out is through. This may be a good mantra to develop as you navigate this stage. It is not until you weather the storm of feelings and emotions that you are ready to move to the next stage. Stage 5, acceptance. Acceptance is going to feel a whole hell of a lot better than the other 4 stages, but it is not going to make the journey complete. But like I said, the work is ongoing. There is no set destination. You will have to continue to engage in the work to ensure you do not have to revisit stages 1 through 5. But even if you do, know these tools are always here for you to use and get back on track. It is not until we reach this stage that we are truly ready for transformation. We have accepted our reality and, most importantly, ourselves. We've released our attachment to the past and the future and are ready to create a present that serves us and becoming our best self. From here, there is no space for denial, anger, bargaining, or depression, because we finally feel peace. And from this place of peace, we are ready to take off and reach the final stage. Stage 6, finding meaning. This is the stage you want to continue to live in as you maintain the work. This is your path forward, honoring your past, your journey, while living in the present moment to create the future you desire. In this stage, it is critical to maintain a practice of staying rooted in the present moment and of cultivating ways to reconnect with it when you feel pulled towards the past or the future. This is where you get to live in purpose, passion, and joy, creating a life you truly love. Your energy will be at an all-time high, and you'll feel like you can take on anything at any time. In the most simple terms I can use, this is bliss and flow. Now that I've laid the groundwork for you, are you ready to go on this journey? If you're a little scared or maybe even terrified, it's perfectly okay. You've got this, and I've got you, and we'll always meet you right where you're at. That's chapter 1. I hope it got you thinking how these 6 stages of grief can actually be a vessel. They're actually the framework of a program I'm developing for women, a way we can explore our deepest inner selves to start to become everything that we were meant to be, that we can live fully in our power and learn to use our voices in very powerful ways, not only for ourselves, but the world. Like I said, as women, we tend to be models for one another, examples. There's been plenty of women that I've encountered, experienced, followed, that have laid the groundwork for me, have opened up the path for me to do the work. And now I invite that for you to be a conduit, to help you realize you don't have to stay stuck. You can be, do whatever you want, but also that you can release pressure when you become yourself, that you realize you don't have to be everything for everyone, that you can be exactly who you are and find the people in your life that love, respect, cherish you for all that you are, and let the rest go. Because at the end of the day, what really matters is how you cultivate and nurture the relationship with yourself. And I will say, after writing this book, it became so much more clear to me what I was on the path to do, or what my mission in the world was. And that was to be a conduit for more people to experience the transformative power of meaningful connection. And that connection starts with ourselves. We can only be as connected to other people as we are to ourselves. So, what stems out of this, what transition I'm currently navigating, which is learning to love again. After you've heard the story of my divorce in season 1, episode 1, how I've come completely 180 from where I was, how I attracted the right kind of person into my life, the right kind of love, the thing that I needed that was a balance to who I was. And I can only credit that to an intimate knowledge of myself. Going through this process, going through the 6 stages of grief, which, as I mentioned, is methodical, but it's not always linear, which means you're not always going from the beginning to the end in those 6 stages. You might be dancing in different stages at different times, or something triggers you and you're back in depression. It's just having the framework to know this is what's going on. And this is something that can ground me back into who I am. I can equate what I'm going through to a phase of that as I'm still grappling with the past version of myself, because she's not going away. Spoiler alert. That past version of yourself wants to stay alive and well. That's why I said this is a journey. There's no end destination. There are going to be tendencies you had that will keep showing up, ways of being that will keep showing up. But being armed with the knowledge that you can go back to these tools, these stages, and examine what's coming up is really empowering. It lets you know that you're going to be okay, and that shedding parts of yourself that are no longer serving you, or maybe never even have served you, is a really empowering act. And then leaning into the things about you that light you up, that are who you are at your soul level. That's what I'm most interested in. And that's what I'm on a mission to do with as many women as I can. Help them become the extraordinary women that we all are. So I hope that gives you a flavor for where I'm headed, what I'm doing in my community Catalyst, which is all about helping women cultivate meaningful connection. Because let's face it, connection has become somewhat of a lost art. In a world that's more and more connected, we're feeling more and more disconnected. And I wanted to create a shift. I wanted to use the skills I had that I feel confident in to help other women feel connected, not only to other people, but to themselves. Because when other women like you share their stories, you get to live vicariously through them in a sense, and them through you. So it's this beautiful cycle of empowerment, support, encouragement, liberation that I feel like you can only experience when you're in community with the right people. So this is my message to you in closing in this short solo episode is be intentional with the people in your life, the people that you give time and energy to, the things that you give time and energy to. Do they help you be the most authentic version of you? Are they a drain? Are they preventing you from living in your fullest expression? Do an energy audit. Where are you spending your time, your resources? Where do you feel the most lit up? Do you know who you really are? That was the question I pondered for so long. How many times over the course of our life do you think we're asked the question, who are you? Or tell me about you? How are you going to answer that question? That became something I became really fascinated with, how I would answer that question. Who am I? What do I want? What am I here to do? All these big questions. And some of these questions are questions we're going to explore on this podcast and in certain episodes because they are universal concepts. I'm not the only one thinking about them, especially as we get older and as women. We start to ponder these things even more and becoming as authentic as we can and surrounding ourselves with other women that help us feel seen, heard, and valued becomes one of the most important things we can do. So I thank you for coming back, being a listener, joining me on season 2. Like I said, I'm going to have some amazing guests. I'll probably share some more excerpts from the book along the way. Follow the podcast, please. I'm going to be highlighting some women that you probably aren't aware of. Not all of them have big names. That's intentional. I want you to see yourself in the average woman that is going through the same struggles, the same challenges, the same existential crises as you may be, because that's what resonated with me. Every conversation I got to have with a woman where I could see myself in her in some way opened something up in me. And that's what I want for you, for anyone listening, to have those aha moments, to know you're not alone and that you don't need to suffer in silence. And that you maybe get some ideas about how you could navigate one of your life transitions with a little bit more grace, ease, and compassion. So thanks again. Stay tuned. More amazing conversations down the line. And I'll be back with you again next week with our first guest. Thanks for listening.